TCM for Women. I'm Dr. Clement Ng. So for those who are new to me, please let me have the opportunity to introduce myself. I'm Dr. Clement Ng. I'm a TCM practitioner from Singapore. So I'm also here there's a list of items that you see on board. I'm currently the chairman for the Complementary Medicine and Health Product Standard Committee, looking into all the standardization of TCM related product and services in Singapore. So I'm representing Singapore in the ISO TC249, the standard committee to look into the standardization of TCM for the whole world. So I'm the vice president of Singapore Acupuncture Association. So, and I'm not the first career TCM practitioner. My first career is in the IT or the computer industry, where I worked in Singtel for 12 years. And subsequently, I joined the ministry as a civil servant. So I'm fully aware of the need to be prudent as far as public money is concerned. So anyway, that's me. And without further ado, let's go to the course. And before I start, I have this particular page just to set us on the right page. What you're going to read and see are things that I'm compiled by myself based on what I study, what I read, what I come across in a clinical setting. So in this discussion thereafter, you have some illnesses or some symptoms we can bring about for discussion purposes. But please bear in mind that we are currently in a virtual platform. Consultation-wise, I need to know who you are, where you come from, and how the past make you who you are today. So in the course of discussion, when I give any advice, it should be only for reference only. Until such a time whereby I can physically diagnose and treat you, there where the suggestion or the prescription given are liable in a sense. So with this statement, we can discuss anything under the sun. So the design itself of the course objective is to help participants to acquire the knowledge from the TCM perspective in addressing the women's health issue. So I'm glad that I have a man on board. Okay, but anyway, I'm a man sharing as well. So we can touch on issue and giving you a perspective on TCM. Chinese medicine, I have a series of courses from I have more than 20 courses approved under SkillsFuture. So for those attended my other courses, I do give you an overview of what TCM is all about. At the end of the day, a medicine system is set up to help you, to help someone who are not feeling well. While the approach may be different, but the objective should be the same. And the idea to prevent you from being sick or help you to recover from whatever symptom you are currently have. So in this particular course, I'm giving you the perspective from the TCM of what women is all about. And I'll share the approach of health betterment. This is the word I'm used more commonly nowadays. Health maintenance is not enough. It should be health betterment. The tomorrow you should be a better you than you today. That's what we want to achieve. And to regain confidence, vitality in mastering life challenges. So these are things that I'm going to cover and what I design. The courses can be developed as time goes by. I have my core material ready. So during the course, whereby I share the so-called agenda or the item to discuss. If you have anything pressing need that you want, you can always email me, and subsequently we can add on to the content of it. So my course is not cast in stone. It's a live course. So sometimes as I develop my courses, it becomes more and more robust. And the site that I send to all of you, the material keep updating. So subsequently, if you leave, or if you after this course, you feel like revisiting the material may be different, may be updated. So this will be a live course per se. So the design of the course itself is 4 modules. So 2 hours each. So total 8 hours, 8 plus, you can stretch a bit longer. So today, I will touch on this idea called unique you. Pardon me. Unique you. And next week, I'll talk about beautiful you, and a calmer you, and the period and you. You notice I like to use the word you, because the company I set up is called TCM and you. And when I set up this company in 2005, I basically have the understanding that I want to make you a smarter you, calmer you, healthier you, stronger you, and what else? And beautiful you. So all the you. So anyway, that's how it goes. So the material design is as such. Unique you. You know the cycle of women's life stages. All of us are born to die. I like to use this word when I cover my herbal diet class. So sometimes we need to know the life cycle. And so what's so different about men and women? Here today I'll talk about a lot on women. My TCM for men course, I cover more in details what men is all about. Okay. Then you understand the health issue in different stages. Today I just cover briefly. Today is the overview. When I talk about the beautiful you, the so-called the calmer you and the period and you, are there more things related to those areas? But what are the different core issue in different life stages? Then talk about the TCM approaches in managing this issue. Just to cover an overview as well. And I will give you a last section on this thing called body constitution type. These are quite similar to those who attended the herbal diet class, but just to give you an refresh or understanding of your body constitution type. Because before embarking on the health care or health maintenance regime, there's a need to understand who we are internally, our constitution. And we like to take from our friends. We like to seek advice from our friends. Your friend said this good, that good. But the question is, the issue is, your friend and you are two different persons. So there's a very important understanding of understand who we are before we embarking on any health maintenance approach. So you learn to know your personal body constitution type. So the principle of TCM health maintenance is all about this keyword from called prevention. It started off from these books, the Huang Di Internal Classic of Medicine, Huang Di Neijing. This compilation of information captured during the Han or even the late warring states is the book until today all TCM practitioners in the world must study and must read. And in this book, you advocate the maintenance and the approach of diseases prevention as the dominant ideology in the treatment of any diseases. The best medicine system in the world is one that you don't fall sick. And why am I embarking on a journey of education? Is because by training the mind, your lifestyle changes can kick in a more systematic approach. So prevention of health, the essence of health maintenance, or I call it health betterment nowadays, it's not about achieving longevity. All Singaporean, men's, I have one man's here. Women, you are technically able to live to the age of 84, 85 years old. My patients are now in the 90s. So when I do house call, they're in the 90s. So age is not an issue. But the question is, having lived long, we also need to understand this concept of live well. Quality of life. I've seen a 90 years old, my most senior participant in my Skill Future course is 90 years old. I still remember this lady walk into the room unaided and speak with the Vigo. 90 years old. He's double my age at the time. So it's about quality of life. As I've seen 70, 80 years old lying on bed. So question about health maintenance and health betterment is not about living long. We have to live well as well. Quality of life is more important than the quantity per se. So this is some basic principle behind the scene. And let's talk about women. So this is the book I'm talking about. And let's talk about women. The overview of this thing called the gynecology or obstetrics in the Chinese medicine. Obstetrics. So I'll give you a history. Chinese medicine is the only medicine system there's no chasm because of the history of civilization of China in developing, and everything is captured and well documented along the way. So let's refer to the warring states. Some history of China. It's about 770 BC. So we are looking at least 2,000, nearly 3,000 years ago. We have Huang Di Neijing, and that's where the book started. So it laid the foundation for the formation and development of gynecology. So, in fact, the entire Chinese medicine system exists for one very important and simple concept, is to maintain the family line. Okay, so the ability to give birth. And about this women, a role in the whole history of China is very important. So later formation and development of gynecology. And subsequently, Han Dynasty, about 206 BC and forward, we have this issue called the Treaty of Co-Pathogenics and Miscellaneous Diseases. This is by this gentleman known as Zhang Zongjing. And all practitioners in the world today are still using this formula. A lot of formula that we use in the market nowadays for treatment of cold, or treatment of even those how should I put it, fever and even cancer and stroke, are using the formula extract from this particular book. So it covers issues such as menstrual diseases, leukorrhea, pregnancy, postpartum diseases. What to take care and how to do. For example, if you have, I'm not sure whether we have Hainanese in our class. This recipe known as Angelica mutton soup, Tang Gui Shen Jiang Yang Lou Tang. This formula, Angelica mutton soup, is written by this gentleman, Zhang Zongjing, in this book known as Co-Pathogenics and Miscellaneous Diseases. 金匮要略. And in the Tang Dynasty, about 581 AD and onward, we have this particular book by a gentleman called Sun Simiao. He's considered one of the wiser today, on the equivalent standing as this gentleman known as Hippocrates. He have this particular formulary collection, a collection of prescription of emergency use that worth 1,000 gold. They call it 千金药方 in Chinese. Inside it captures more than 5,300 prescriptions. So in there, we have things such as sterilization, contraception, and even drug abortions. So these are captured in the Tang Dynasty. And as time progressed, in the Song Dynasty, about 960 AD onward, obstetric gynecology has developed into an independent specialty. So Chinese medicine also have specialty, but our specialty and specialization field is different from the modern medicine perspective. And in Ming Dynasty, this particular book called Criterion of Syndrome and Treatments, where it looked into the illnesses collection. By combining all the previous discussion and treatment and agent, it deepened with the understanding of kidney in the reproduction issue. Later I'll talk about all these things today. Yeah? And the Qing Dynasty, nearest to us now, 1636 AD onward, the obstetric and gynecology are collectively referred to TCM for Women, whereby I'm collecting today, TCM for Women, 妇科. And there are many books and research on this particular field ever since the Qing Dynasty. And many of them are very famous collection today. And all this book that I mentioned here today, if you're interested to find out all these things, is available in the library in Toa Payoh. I was a vice president of Singapore College of TCM. At the Toa Payoh, the Zhonghua Clinic level 4, there's a library open to public. There's a collection of more than 40,000 books inside. So all these books can be found inside the particular library. And come the modern era, after the formation of after the so-called the toppling of Qing Dynasty by Sun Yat-sen, we have this thing called the modern era, where we look into the integrative medicines between the modern medicine and Chinese medicines. And ever since then, these two fields are very much closely linked to each other. And the next slide basically show you all the different books that's available. In the Han, Zhang Zongjing, the synopsis of illnesses, the treasure of the menses and delivery in the Tang Dynasty, Sun Simiao, the emergency formula I mentioned just now, for more, okay? And in the Song Dynasty, the prescription for women. In the Ming Dynasty, the criteria of evidence and treatment under the female section. And the Ming as well, the collection of women's formula. And the Ming Zhang Jingye, the collection of Master Jingye, the rules of women. And the Qing, we have the female specialist, Fu Qingzu. A lot of the medicine that we use today for females, such as Xiao Yao Wan, for emotional treatment of emotional swing is in the Qing dynasty. Then we have the Yi Zhong Jing Jian, where I talk about the gist of gynecologists. And in the modern era, under the Republic of China, the integration record of Chinese and Western medical applications. So as you can see, throughout the history of development of Chinese civilization, as well as the corresponding era of Chinese medicine development, there are many texts and literature and research on women. So these are the reference segment that I have captured of all my information. And so in the event you have anything to discuss along the way, an area that I don't cover well enough, do let me know. We can add on as our class progress. Okay. So what about women? Women have a special physiological characteristic from the TCM point of view. If I can treat and cure women's illnesses, the men's illnesses is given to a certain extent, because women are more complex in terms of the physiological structure as compared to men. Because of this issue of menstruation, the pregnancy, the ability to give life, conceive and carry a life indeed, and subsequently produce life, pregnancy, and call it childbirth, and the lactation. We let our children drink the milk. What is milk? Our milk, our mother's milk lactation process is basically letting the children drinking the blood. Your child is drinking not milk but your blood per se. So I'll discuss all these fundamental substance as we progress in the course. So this, because of menstruation issue, every period, instead of calling it month, a Chinese, or maybe you call it 月经 in Chinese is not correct. A period in English is more a correct term because not everybody has to be 28 days. And because of this period of change that resulted in the body changes, hormonal swing and things like that, it play a very significant role to understand how the period and you, and eventually how to address it. So I'll dedicate the whole segment on them to discuss the period in the last module. And the pregnancy. How pregnancy come about? That the fact that we carry our life in the mother womb for 9 months, in the modern medicine perspective, 10 months in the TCM perspective. And why when you are born you are 1 year old? I will explain this. For those for those who attended my other courses, I have explained this concept to all of you. And childbirth, before birth and after birth, there are significant understanding. You need to take note of it. And I have a course on the TCM for children and baby and child from 0 age to 21 year age, and lactations. Why some have, some don't have, and the quality of the so-called the milk per se. Then all these are women's blood is a foundation of the source of health, because menstruation, pregnancy, childbirth, lactation, all have direct relationship with this concept called blood. In TCM, blood is more than the red fluid liquid that in the body. Anything that of nutritive value in the body is considered blood. So your milk, your hormone, your many things is all under the blood family. Okay, so let's proceed. So TCM believe that in order to radiate beauty of health from within, the keyword now is within. The entire supplementary market nowadays is also going toward this direction from within. Women should focus on health regulation from the internal body, understanding how the internal body works, activating fundamental substance such as qi, the blood, and the meridian collateral systems. The meridian collateral system, I have a course on acupressure massage where I share that in Chinese medicine, we view ourselves as within this piece of skin. We are basically a collection of multiple systems. So all these systems are interconnecting each other through an energy pathway known as the meridian collateral system. And we need to understand the yin and the yang. Yin-yang is a general concept, but in Chinese medicine, it's a balanced medicine. Why am I sick? It's either I'm too hot or too cold. When I'm too tired, because too tired, or I'm basically too excited. I'm due to internal deficiency or excess. So there's a thing called balance. Yin yang is a generic concept, and I will talk about it in more detail in the second module. So, TCM also believes that in view of the various health issues, the approach are mainly to regulate. Chinese medicine don't treat per se. As I mentioned just now, a person not feeling well is either you're off balance. So what we do is regulate. By regulating, we want to dispel external pathogens. You may be exposing to bacteria, virus, and stuff like that. Okay, we expel pathogens. We want to condition the internal organ visceral system. Understand how our different organ systems in play in different stages of our life, and we coordinate accordingly. And regulating the thoroughfare and conception meridian. I'll talk about these two meridians in particular in short while. These are very important meridians for TCM from the TCM perspective. Meridian that associate for women when they come to many other issues that why women suffer from certain illnesses. So the visceral system in TCM context. As I mentioned just now, TCM the system theory. We talked about all the organ in the modern medicines, our heart, our lung. But in TCM, a heart is more than just the heart organ itself. The heart incorporating the entire blood circulatory systems. My lung is not just the lung organ itself. The respiratory system as well as the water fluid distribution. The kidney system is more than just the two organ. It involves our reproduction and our endocrine system. So it's a system theory where it look into areas such as it's based on ancient philosophy, it's based on ancient philosophical thinking in China. And from a systemic perspective. And are not simply organ and in anatomy, but the system with a corresponding physiological function, as I mentioned just now. So we have Zhang and with the Fu systems, Zhang Fu. Okay. Just to give you a perspective, I hesitate to show this page, but some of you are new to me. For example, it's part of the issue of language development, just for your argument's sake, to demystify the confusion, the for language development. Because I have a lot of Chinese here in the class. So in Chinese, we call it shen. A lot of people immediately consider kidney. But the question is, what we talk about here, the shen is not equal to kidney, because in Chinese medicines, or in Chinese word per se, all words are loaded. For example, I have this thing called the shen in the ancient, one of the ancient form. It's a masculine word whereby we have two kidney organs. The left organ refer to the reserve, the right organ refer to the function. So this is a pictorial word, pictorial representation of this word called kidney systems. So it's a masculine word. So I have my reserve here, I have my penis here. So this is called a kidney system. As the language progresses, notice, when they come to the simplified form, the total meaning is changes. And when I refer to a system, I'm referring to more than just the organ itself. For example, a kidney. In this visceral system, kidney system, it encompassing what we know as the kidney, the organ, the bladder, the organ, the adrenal gland, the organ, the blood vessel, thing you can see, your nerves, and your genital organ. So these are things you can see. All these different sub-organs form together to form this system. We call it kidney visceral system. And when it comes to functionality, the functionality of the kidney visceral system is basically represent or demonstrated from the fact that whether an individual can grow well, can reproduce, can fight the good diuretic system, as well as a functional endocrine system. So these are the system I'm referring to. So when I refer to the organ system, we have Zhang and the Fu, with a yin organ and a yang organ. The Zhang organ are referring to the yin organ system. These are the yin system, whereby I have my heart visceral system. I mentioned just now, a heart is more than the heart organ itself. Heart is a system that is responsible for the entire circulatory, including our brain. Whether a person eventually get dementia or not, from a TCM perspective, is how strong the heart will be. A simple statement, you think with your heart or think with your brain. You slowly digest this statement first. You put your heart into something, or you put your brain into something. Before you embark on a project, what must you do? You put your heart into it. Because with your heart into a particular item, your brain will follow. So this statement basically like that. A person with a strong heart system, where the circulation is well, there's no reason why your brain eventually would appear to have this thing called deterioration. So strengthening your heart system is one important. Then we have this thing called the lung visceral system, where responsible for the entire respiratory as well as the fluid distribution. The spleen visceral system, responsible for the transformation process. When I eat something, the food has to be transformed. The pancreatic system or the modern medicine is part under the spleen visceral system in TCM. I'll elaborate in other courses where you can come across. Liver visceral system, responsible for the regulation as well as the emotion part of our life. The kidney visceral system, I mentioned just now, it encompassing such as reproduction, our endocrine system, the ability to fight and flight. And we have this particular item called pericardium system. It's slightly different. A pericardium, from the modern medicine perspective, is a membrane that protects the heart. So this membrane that we see here today, it covers the heart. But in the TCM context, the pericardium is more than just a membrane. It's a proxy to the heart. When someone having a heart problem, for example, like myself, I'm born with this defect known as mitral valve prolapse. In order to strengthen my system, instead of targeting the treatment at the heart, we target at the pericardium visceral system. This is just an overview. So the function of a zang organ or the yin systems are to produce, to regulate, to store fundamental substance, such as we have essence, qi, blood, and body fluid. I will not elaborate further on this particular item. This are covered under another module called TCM Fundamental and Diagnosis. But anyway, just to show you that all the zang organ basic are a system that help to regulate and store this system, all this fundamental substance in our body that help us function who we are. Then I have this thing called the fu visceral system. Zang fu. One is the yin system, and now this is the yang system. In the yang system, I have my gallbladder visceral system. In the gallbladder visceral system, since you're on this topic now, I want to discuss this particular item called systems. I believe many of you here come across individual where they have the gallbladder removed. Correct? When the gallbladder removed, is the gallbladder system still stay? Answer is yes. Because this one I need to understand between the system and organ. When the organ within the system is being removed, it just indicates that this particular system currently is in a dysfunctional mode. It's a bit on the weaker side. For example, I have two kidneys. One kidney removed. Is my kidney system still around? Yes. It will be in a deficiency state. If I have my left organ, left kidney removed, in TCM, the left kidney belongs to the yin organ. The individual will experiencing things such as yin deficiency, dryness, hot flushes, and stuff like that. If the right organ removed, the person will experiencing this item called coldness. The importance of men and coldness and for women. So these are called systems. So a gallbladder visceral system is important in regulating our emotion part of it. For example, if when a gallbladder removed, this individual will suffer a particular issue such as he or she can sleep, but subsequently wake up very easily. And come next week, I have a course on insomnia, and I'll touch on this. There are people a lot of people can sleep, but they call themselves light sleeper. They sleep and wake up, sleep and wake up. So what is called a light sleeper? It's basically a gallbladder system deficiency. Then we have this thing called the stomach visceral systems, where it's responsible for the storage and the food. Bring our food from our mouth through our esophagus all the way down to the anus, stomach visceral system. The small intestine visceral system, responsible for the processing, extraction of nutrient. And this functionality is exactly similar to the modern medicine understanding of small intestine. The large intestine where it subsequently absorbs the final fluid and purge out from the body. And our bladder visceral system that help to collect the fluid in the body and subsequently purge out through the urination. And I have a Sanjiao visceral system. This is something unique to TCM as well. Sanjiao, or you call it triple warmer in some literature. There is no direct corresponding organ per se in the modern medicine yet to discover. So, Sanjiao refer to the three segments of our body. Above my solar plexus is called the upper jiao or upper body. Below my, in between my solar plexus and my navel is the middle segment, middle jiao. Below my navel and my lower limb and my genital organ is the lower jiao. So when you refer to illnesses, when someone suffering from migraine, heart-related illnesses, lung system is the upper jiao problem. When someone suffers from diabetic, hypertension, cholesterol system, digestive system issue, is the middle jiao problem. When someone having a incontinent, weak limbs, is the lower jiao problem. So this is a San jiao per se. But San jiao have the functionality of regulating the qi and the fluid of the whole body, which is loosely equivalent to the lymphatic system of the modern medicines. So all the yang meridian or the full organ system, the function of the full organ, the yang system, are for transportation and transformation. For example, it's a pass-through. When I eat something, the food goes through my stomach. Is the stomach responsible for the absorption? The answer is no. It's basically just hold the food for a while and subsequently transport it downward and transform the substance into the body that flow through them. So a stomach, or pardon me, a full organ is the pass-through. So this is something for your understanding. And I'll share an overview of the meridian, because later I'll talk about some discussion of acupoint identification, just for your understanding. I'm talking about more than 15 meridian today. So here you have for the visceral system meridian flow. The lung system flow. Okay, like first of all, let me share about the yin and the yang concept first. All the hand yin meridian are on the internal side of the hand. The yang meridian on the external side of the hand. So the Tai yin lung meridian travel from the chest, from the inner side of the body, all the way to the thumb. The yang meridian of the hand, yang means large intestine meridian of the hand, travel from the index finger all the way up to our head. The yang means stomach meridian of the foot, travel from the below our eye, down through our dipper, and travel all the way down on the outer side of the leg to in between second and third toe. And the spleen meridian travel from with the big toe on the inner side of the leg up to stomach chest. And from here, it connects to the heart meridian, where the heart meridian travel from the chest all the way down to the little finger. And subsequently, from the little finger, the small intestine meridian of the hand up all the way from the side of the hand up through our neck and stop at the inner and outer canters of the eyes. And from here, the bladder meridian start from the inner side of the eye, up, pass through our head, go through our back, and pass down the entire of our back, down all the way to the base of our leg, on the outer side of the leg. And the kidney meridian started off from the base of the leg, pass through our inner ankle, and all the way up into our body. And from here, it connects to the pericardial meridian, where the pericardial meridian travel from the chest all the way down to the middle finger. And the Shaoyang Sanjiao meridian of the hand travel from the ring finger on the other side of the hand up all the way by the side of our face, up, terminate around our eye, our external eyebrow. And from here, it connects to the gallbladder meridian, where it started off from the temple, travel couple around by the side of the head, before it pass through the side of our body, go through our sciatica zone, and pass down from the side of our body all the way to the leg, and it connect to the big toe and the second toe, where it travel all the way up on the inner side of the leg, pass through our groin, and all the way up to our head. This is a meridian pathway or a child meridian. Pardon me for going in a very smooth and fast pace. Details we cover in other part of the course, but I'll talk about, to just give you an overview. Our body are moving, whether you are sitting there listening to me, your body is moving because our internal organ energy are moving. So there's another concept here I want to share with all of you is the governor meridian and the conception meridian. The governor meridian start from they all origin from the same spot. From the base of our just behind our penis or anus, in front of our anus, same spot. One travel from the front to the front, terminate below the tongue. The other travel from behind all the way up our middle of the spine on the inner on the midline of our body and terminate just after our nose, and this is spot. So if you notice, for those who are practicing qigong, there's a technique you normally see them doing. This is to stick out your tongue and touch the upper jaw. Why so? This simple action, touching the upper jaw, is to close the circuit. We call it the inner circuit. In Chinese, we call it 小周天. So I just give you an overview of what the meridian is all about. I will elaborate this as we go talk about application later. So let me talk about what we're going to discuss today. The beautiful cycle of women's life stages. Women life go through a stage, just like all of us all go through a stage. Different stages. So this is basically giving you an overview. All of us went through these stages, depending on which age you are in right now. I'm 52, so I'm somewhere around here. Okay, anyway, so this number that you see here in front of you, a multiple of 7. A multiple of 7 was defined in the ancient text, in the 黄帝内经. Women's 7, men's 8. But in this number convention itself, if you notice about 56, it diminished. As I mentioned, this theory was based on 黄帝内经. People in that era seldom live beyond 70. That's why there's this statement, 人生70古来稀. But here nowadays we are in the 80s. So but this numbering context still play a significant role. Just to give you an idea, something happened at the age of 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, and 56. And that's what I elaborate today. Different stage, what happened? So at the age of 7, something happened. What happened? If you have a baby at home, you'll notice their life they have this thing called the baby tooth. The baby tooth, you have sufficient kidney system vitality. The kidney become abundant. The growth of permanent teeth as well as body hair. So you notice that the baby tooth will start to drop and the adult teeth will start to form. So this is where when the kidney system is in abundance, the teeth will form. And that's the reason why some exercise out there ask you to do this simple action. Bite your teeth. And you're encouraged to bite your teeth. By biting your teeth, this simple action strengthens your kidney system. So something you can do. Okay. Then something happened at the age of 14. At the age of 14, plus minus, it's a state of abundance for the kidney system vitality. And it has this thing at the arrival of this special sex stimulating essence element. We call it 天葵. And so in some text literature, it is equivalent to this thing called the estrogen, basically. 天葵. With this 天葵, at the same time, during this age, conception vessel is clear. It's already true. the liver system also become abundant, and the lady will start to have menstruation. I call her lady now. This is something that you have to take notes. When your young girl at home start to have menstruation, you should respect them as a young lady. If you still consider and treat them like a girl, they don't like you. They are behaving like a young lady. And now in the Singapore context, girls as young as 9 years old, they start to have menstruation because of the quality of life they are enjoying. So this Tian Kui is an important concept in the TCM context, but it's basically a sex stimulating essence. So at the age of 14, technically, they can start to have baby. Okay, and welcoming the age of estrogen. So why at this stage? Because we talk about kidney system. The kidney system is an inner essence, inner origin. It's where essence, the qing, the qi, and the blood reside and transform. Is responsible for the reproduction. So at the age of 7, kidney become abundant. At the age of 14, the internal system are already well built and well endorsed. So in the ancient history and dynasty, when the emperor attained the throne, it's at the age of 16. And the empress he eventually get married to, or he married, is at the age of 14. So liver system is for regulations and the processing of the blood. So whether your menses or the period come regularly or not, it depending on the abundancy or the functionality of the liver system. And we're listing all the spleen system, where the source of nurture after birth, where the reproduction and management of the blood system. So these are three very important organ system, and there's a key acupoint known as SP6, San Yin Jiao. I'll talk about it in the next week. Where when this particular acupoint help to manage all these three systems. So women's special physiology, including menstruation. So the issue called menarche. Menarche start as young as here indicated 11. I am one of my friend, one of my ex-colleague girl at 9 years old come menarche. Menarche is basically the first menses, as typically from 11 to age of 18, on average 14 years old. Menopause, it can start all the way from 46 to 56. I have patient at the age of 60s still have menses, natural without any so-called hormonal treatments, HRT hormone. Then with this thing called the cycle. A typical cycle is 21 to 35 days, generally 28, but they are ladies who come once every 2 months or once every 3 months. It's fine. As I mentioned to you, in the modern medicine, or in the more English, you call it a period, is a more accurate term as compared to Chinese called 月经. So a cycle between this is plus minus 7 days. If every of a cycle, they are plus minus 7 days, is still considered normal. And this period, so while the menses come, typically lasts between 3 to 7 days. Most are 4 to 5 days. And the amount of the discharge, it depends. Typically less on the first day, more on the second and third day, and less on the fourth day. So this is how it typically happens. And some of the patients that I come across, they have more in the first day. So it depends. All of us are different constitution. Your constitution will define eventually how all these things will happen. And the color of the so-called the mens. Typically dark red in color, deepen from light red to dark, followed by light and red again. There may be situation you have some clogging. The texture may not be well, and basically that indicating certain pathogenic behavior in the body itself. Then I'll share with you what's the conception meridian. The conception meridian governs all yin meridians. It connected all the yin meridian of the body is a sea of yin. It started from here and it moved up. It's a function of regulating the menstruation, promoting female reproductive functions. And I also share with you this thing called the Tara Fair. Sea of blood, they are both sea of blood, menstrual and all reproductive issue, irregular menstruation and infertility, physical and spiritual of the heart issue, heart pain, depression, balancing the rebellious chi, hiccup, and abdominal stagnations. All women issue come about or can be traced to the issue related to the conception vessel and the Tara Fair vessel. Just for information. And at the age of 21 years old, what happened? At this stage, the level of kidney system vitality will attain its equilibrium. Achieving certain equilibrium is reaching the peak. And the body development will start to stop. And at this age, the wisdom teeth will start to grow. So when you have wisdom teeth growing, meaning that the body already starting to reaching its peak. So there's something that you can take note of it. So at this stage, if a lady can start to embarking on the journey of health betterment, he will be basically able to maintain a very good life or beautiful, graceful aging. So many a time, I encourage more people attending courses, and I look forward to seeing young person in my class for that simple reason. The earlier you're aware of health betterment, chances are you will not age that much. I start practicing TCM at the age of 34 years old. So anyway, that's how it goes. Then we talk about leukorrhea. This is something that many of the women face and come across. Is it an issue? Answer is no. Leukorrhea is a woman is born with it. It's for lubricating purpose. It's not a disease. But it depending on the stage. This is by this gentleman called in the Ming Dynasty. Pardon me, Qing Dynasty. Wang Mengying. Depending on the color. White or colorless, sticky and not too thick, this is normal. Moderate in the amount or the less. It transforms from the kidney essence. As smooth as ointment with moist and nourishing effect. This is called leukorrhea. Bai dai, we call it bai dai. It appears after menarche and decrease after menopause. So throughout your life, for women, you have this that come with you. But depending on the stage or the state of leukorrhea, it may be a case whereby illnesses can be, depending on the color of it, some are yellowish in color, some are darker tone in color, greenish in color as well. So the amount typically increases before and after menstruation and during pregnancy. So this is called leukorrhea. By tai. Then at the age of 28 years old, this is where women, her body is at the peak. You're at your peak level, and a strong muscle and bone, and thick and lustrous hair. At this stage, is the most mature and beautiful age for the women. And a lot of people like to use this word forever young. The idea is that when they hit the peak, in Chinese saying, 物极必反, 否极泰来. When they hit the peak, the only way is going downhill. The question now is when you hit the peak, how you should maintain the kind of lifestyle you want to adopt. This is where as young as 21, 28 years old, you can start to have a journey or embarking on the fact that understanding that we are old and we will die or we will age per se, you can adopt certain lifestyle to prevent it from happening. So because by the time you reach the age of 35, the initial aging such as sallow face, wrinkles, hair loss will start to happen. And when it happens, it's all due to the degeneration of the Yang Ming meridian. And the Yang Ming meridian is an important organ system known as the stomach system and the large intestine system. And that's why the entire supplementary industry out there keep telling you to do detoxification. Is to cleanse from the large intestine. But to take note of this one, because the root cause of all the aging and sallow face is about poor gastrointestinal functions. Take for example, I have beautiful face here and the old face here. So all of us want to age gracefully. Yeah. And the importance of taking care of your digestive system is something that you have to take notes. Meaning, a lot of us like to take cold drinks, uncooked food, but technically it's no good for the body. I believe there's a lot of nutritionists out there in this class as well. But please bear in mind that I'm here to we share knowledge. The cases to understand is very something simple and straightforward. Our body is a warm body. We are constant temperature 36.9. Consuming too cold a thing, basically making our body extend or exert more energy to process and digest it. So as we age, one of the key elements that will wither along the aging process is the energy level of the body. So we want to maintain as much energy internally as much as possible. For example, when you touch someone, you prefer to touch a warm hand than a cold hand. So anyway, this is how it goes. And as we, As we further develop, my mouse disappeared. So at age of 42, the 3 young meridian in the upper body will start to decline. It leads to the facial sagging and the graying of hair and eventually turn white. So these 3 young meridian, pardon me. So it's important to take good care of 6 young visceral organs to look as beautiful as you want, as you can till the age of 70. So this is how a aging process look like. The same face as you age gracefully. Okay, sorry, my video is being stuck. Okay, sorry, you can see me. So at the age of 42 or plus minus 8 to 10 years old, so you age. This is called but by maintaining our young organ, as important as we age, to make sure our young energy, keeping the body warm is very important. Let me continue. And at the age of 49, at this stage, the body will tend to deteriorate generally, and the functionality of the conception vessel, the conception meridian I mentioned just now, and the liver system will start to diminish. Just now we mentioned at the age of 14, when the conception vessel, thoroughfare vessel, and the liver system become abundant, what happened? We start to have menstruation. And now, at the age of 49, when the conception vessel and the liver system start to diminish, at the same time, this special substance known as Tian Kui, the sex-stimulating element in the body, will deteriorate. And this lady now will experiencing the ability to menstruation will stop, and the ability to give birth will also stop. Then I'll bring your attention to this particular thing called PCOS. We come across many of these PCOS cases in the clinic nowadays. The polycystic ovary syndromes, where many of the young ladies trying to conceive, and they have faced this issue of PCOS. And the PCOS in the TCM context is expressed in the disorder of Tian Kui, where the Tian Kui is function of the liver system, the spleen system, and the liver system, the spleen system, and the kidney system. So this is the PCOS in the modern context. Many of us in the clinic nowadays come across many of such issues. So this aging process is what we're gonna go through. There's a life cycle. Here I'm trying to advocate this issue, telling you about we have this particular life cycle, not to basically telling you that in this beautiful stage, all of us are experiencing this aging process. What goes up will come down. But the idea is a heavy understanding of these stages of growth. We can take positive steps as in how to do, maintaining, for example, the objective is to, is basically to do this, pardon me. The objective is to, by understanding that the concept of aging, you can basically age gracefully. And most of us are in a way because of our advance in medical system nowadays. As a society go into a more developed country, Singapore is considered developed to a certain extent. We are looking in life into self-actualizations. We have passed the stage in the Maslow hierarchy of physiological requirement needs. So in the understanding of the self-actualization, to have a better quality of life, as I mentioned just now, it's not about living long. To be frank, in Singapore as a country whereby it's very difficult to die. Because I have many courses, I tell a lot of people, in Singapore, it's very difficult to die, per se. We don't have much natural disaster. The only way of us we can pass on is through illnesses or through aging process. But while illnesses come about as we age, we can understand how it happened to us and taking positive steps to avoid it. And that bring me to the next phase of what causes illnesses from the TCM, from the women perspective. So the etiology and pathogenesis of gynecological diseases for women. Women and men have different issue, but typically they are quite similar. So etiology, how illnesses come about. It can be due to climatic pathogenic factors. The most of the factors that are affecting us most are either due to coldness, hot, or wet. And there's element called wind as well. But too cold is something that damages your internal circulations. When there's cold, there's contraction. Some of you have received article from me. Every quarter or so, I send an article to all my participants telling them that under this weather condition, what must you do, what must you take. For example, now we are entering a cool weather pattern for Singapore. So this is a period where a lot of illnesses such as hypertension or stroke may come across. Hot and wet. So these are all external illness causing, these are all climatic pathogenic factor. Then we have this thing called social incident factors. Eating without restraint. We eat a lot. For example, this is a festive season now. Christmas is coming. I have a patient request for a special medicine known as 保和丸. It's on last weekend because he's expecting to eat a lot. So he had to prepare this thing to help in digestion. So, but the thing is, we eat more than what we need. In the era where we are in the country, society where we are in, we used to eat chicken twice in a month. But now we can eat chicken rice every day due to overwork disorder. And this thing called the emotional pathogenic factors, where things such as emotional issue. When I treat illnesses, things I discussed in the previous page, climatic condition, is very easy to manage if you just avoid the climate. So the society issue, you can also avoid it by don't join in the rat race. But emotional factors, if the emotional pathogenic factors, sorrow, many a time is how you manage and you react to the action. My modus operandi is like nobody can stress me unless I stress myself. So sorrow can hurt the spleen. Someone who think a lot, who think of what you have done to me and stuff like that, you cannot eat. Anger, when someone doing something wrong from your perspective, you feel that the person doing something wrong to you, what happened? You get angry. And anger can hurt the liver system. It can trigger such as depression or even stroke. Sadness, I feel tired, I feel like crying. Okay, the lung system, it hurt the lung system. And fear affect the kidney system. The classic example is when they're involved in a near accident or stuff like that. You have incontinence, urination and stuff like that. Or when someone want to hit you, instead of you running away, you're frozen. Why? The organ skeletal structure belong to the kidney systems. Then we have this thing called the constitution factors. The constitution factors such as congenital deficiency, we are born with it. Or this thing called the qi and the blood disorder. Later at the end of the class, I'll go through a segment known as the understanding of body constitution. For those who have attended my other courses, let me take it as a refresher. So the qi and blood disorder, for example, by understanding your personal bias, your personal constitution base. For example, I myself belong to the yang deficiency constitutions. And the physical structure of the body. These are things that will define who you are and eventually what kind of illnesses you may result in, such as dysfunction of the organ systems, imbalance of qi and the blood. When TCM comes to diagnosis, someone can be qi deficiency, qi stagnant, sunken of qi. I'll elaborate this in a very short while and what all these things refer to. Because of the previous etiology, our organ system, the different organ system in place, for example, my heart system. When my heart system is being affected, I'll have difficulty falling asleep. When my gallbladder system is being affected, I can sleep, but I have a lot of worry. Slight noise, I'll wake up. If my kidney system is being affected, I may have nightmare. I may have incontinence. Okay. So if my spleen system has been affected, I may have this issue called diabetics. So these are where a dysfunctional to the different organ system will trigger different illnesses. And the imbalance of the qi and the blood in the body will also determine how eventually when you come across certain illness. Then damage to the thoroughfare, conception, governor, and the belt meridian. So this is where I talk about just now in terms of meridian distribution. I'll cover what's thoroughfare, conception, and governor. I didn't touch on the belt meridian. The belt meridian basically a particular meridian just cut. If for a line, it travel along the entire belt. That basically divided our body into the upper body and the lower body. So these are the issue whereby in the clinical setting, we come across individuals such as when their body have certain demonstration of illnesses symptoms, such as my upper body very warm, below my body very cold. And when they come to coldness, a range of illnesses also can come together as well. So then let me share about the different illnesses, dysfunction of the organ system. It can be due to the kidney deficiency. So in cases such as what we observe in the clinical setting, somebody suffering from amenorrhea, amenorrhea, okay, delay in menstruation, menses don't come, infertility, these can be attributed to kidney system deficiency. Early menstruation, come earlier than normal. Menopause, basically too much collapse, too much menses. The fetus move during pregnancy, you can experiencing the fetus movement. When I have a liver stagnations, the menstruation have no regular period. It cannot predict when the period will come because your emotional swing, liver stagnation. This thing called dysmenorrhea, which is pain or menses cramp, or no menses. Spleen system deficiency, where I experiencing premenstrual, the menses come earlier than predicted, or too much menopause, too much menses, or we have this thing called uterine prolapse or uterus prolapse, organ prolapse. When I have a case of prolapse, for example, drooping eyelid, organ prolapse, anus prolapse, we call it the I forget the word, basically, pulse or whatsoever. Basically, it's a case of organ prolapse or anus prolapse. These are all due to spleen system deficiency. Then I have the imbalance of qi and the blood. It can be due to stagnation of qi. The qi gets stagnant. Sinking of qi. The qi is similar to prolapse. Qi reversal. When the qi is supposed to go downward and end up in reverse. I'll give you all these states of imbalance with example. Blood deficiency or blood stasis. So let me elaborate. What do I mean by qi stagnation? Stagnation of qi. What kind of typical symptom we can come across and observe in a clinical setting? Swelling. So you have feel some swell in the body, something growing in the body. It's basically a case of stagnation of qi. Cyst and fibroid. For women who have cyst and fibroid formation in the body, most of the time they can attribute to the fact that there's certain emotional imbalance. This individual typically very timid, very quiet, and tend to be introverted and don't, how should I say, let go of the issue. They trap internally, there's a stagnation of qi. Hold on. Give me a short second. Then we have this thing called the growth. When something grows in the body, for example, you have cancer, some lymphoma, something grow in the body, a growth, is typically due to stagnation of qi. By default, our body internal meridian system have to be well regulated and move in a constant speed. In the event where the qi start to be stagnant or impeded flow, for example, the story I like to use is basically a river. If the river, the stream of water flowing very well, nothing will be collected. But come a situation where when the water start to flow slowly and slowly, you notice along the way something may drop and start to collect, and eventually it form a lump. And so when a dead cat come about, it may be rot. So our internal system is the same thing. When there's a cases of stagnation of qi, things start to collect somewhere, things will start to grow. There is this thing called the oppressions. Feeling bad, distension, not engaging in anybody, as well as pain. When there's no flow, you feel pain. Okay, so these are due to stagnation of qi. All these symptoms are related to stagnation of qi. Then they think of sinking of qi, when the qi starts to sink. So the fullness and sinking sensation in the abdomen and the lumbar region. You feel your lower back very heavy. One thing to take note, all of you have to acknowledge this thing. The fact that every day, we are exposing to one force known as the gravity. With the moment you wake up, we are basically counteracting with this force known as gravity. Why in the first place all our organs stay put in their respective space? It's because our internal organ system muscle are strong to hold all organs in their rightful place. In the event when my muscles are weakened due to my spleen system deficiency, I will start to experiencing sinking sensation, something heavy and something pulling me down. Okay, so they have frequent defecation. You pass motion. This is different from diarrhea. Shortness of breath. I cannot catch my breath easily. Organ prolapse, as I mentioned just now. There are many organs in the body can prolapse. I have come across a patient, she had to wear a girdle, basically supporting everything, pushing everything upward. But as I mentioned, the moment you stand up, you are acting against the force known as a gravity. And why our body is able to hold on to all the organs is because of the internal strength of the muscle. And the muscle is a function of the spleen system from the modern medicine perspective. The muscle, from the TCM perspective, is a function of the spleen system. So we strengthen the spleen, 健脾益气, to hold on the organs. And weak voice, when I cannot, no strong voice, weak voice, or weak pulse, when I touch the pulse. Pulse very weak, no strength, indicator of sinking of qi. For example, sometimes a practitioner have to press very hard in order to diagnose and see whether there is a pulse reaction in the body. So this sinking of qi. Then reversal of qi, meaning that the energy flow or the meridian flow have to flow in the default direction, but instead of flowing in the particular direction, it flow the other way, such as a case of headaches with distending feeling, sharp pain, pushing it, okay, distension in the hypochronic region, such as area around here, typically below the liver system. Reversal of qi. Red and rosy face turn red. Eye irritability, hematosis, coughing of blood, or even syncope. We have this issue called, there are many in the clinical setting, nauseating, vomiting, hiccup, or regurgitation. This is where the case of, sometimes in the clinical setting, we come across people with this thing called acid reflux. It's a reversal of qi. Stomach qi is supposed to descend and go downward. We have an acid reflux. So this is also a reversal of qi. And cough. Cough is a natural body reaction against external pathogens. Sometimes not all the cough you must address. Remember this statement. Not all cough have to be addressed, because some cough are basically is a body cell defense. I come across something, dust or things like that, I cough. But anyway, reversal of qi, basically the qi supposed to descend, you go the other way, it's called reversal of qi. Then we have this thing called collapse of qi, such as when the eyes start to close. In the case of stroke, mouth open, okay. Paralytic body, profuse sweating. This is a case whereby someone having the heart start to fail. One of the symptoms they need to observe is profuse perspiration, sweating. Incontinence, urination, and defecations. Someone, this afternoon I just has come across a patient. Whenever he need to go to toilet, he must go to toilet within 30 seconds, or else the urine will just come out. The body's inability to hold on to the muscle is weakened. So hopefully next week I have see positive result. But incontinence, urination, defecation, and weak and intestinal indistinct pulse. You can hear from the body, from the pulse taking. This is called the qi area of disorder of qi. Then let's talk about the disorder of the blood. Blood deficiency. You'll come across an individual having a paleness, look very pale. Lips and nail bit, tongue and compression, all very pale. The body very thin, structurally very skinny and thin. Dry hair and skin. Because our hair is a metabolic byproduct of the blood. How good your hair quality is a function of your blood as well. And trembling and numbness of the arm and the hand. I have blood deficiency, the hand will start to trembling. Dizziness, lighthearted upon standing. But when you find to stand up, you feel giddy. It's partly can be attributed to blood deficiency. Muscle strain easily. Walk a couple of steps, your muscle have weakened. As I mentioned just now, the muscle, our body muscle is a function of the spleen. And the production of the blood is a function of the spleen. So when the production of the blood, the spleen is dysfunctional or weakened or in deficiency, the muscle will not be strong as well. We have this thing called cracking and popping of the joint. It can be attributed to blood deficiency. Then I have this thing called the stasis. Stasis is a case whereby you have a pain in the fixed positions in the body. The pain stay and they basically stay there for a long, long while. And they have this thing called nectalgia. Nectalgia. Okay, I have to pronounce this word correctly. Yeah. Nectalgia. It's a case whereby you will come across a painful sensation, especially at night. In TCM, blood belongs to the yin element. So when the yin element is dysfunctional or deficiency, during the yin time, the yin element peak at the yin period. So at night is a yin period. So if your pain aggravate or become more and more painful sensation at night, it can be attributed to blood stasis. It can be attributed to the yin element issue. So warming up the body will definitely help in addressing this type of cases. So nectalgia. We have dark purple coloring of the tongue. So when you stick out the tongue, and next week I'll show you some of the tongue images as well. So the tongue color is dark purple color of the tongue. Then you have this thing called the infraorbital darkness, which is somewhere around the eyelid. I mean the you call it the dark eye ring, the infraorbital darkness. And sublingual varicosis, so the varicose vein, blood spot under the skin or the tongue. Now these are some of, for example, this one around the eye area you have noticed. These are known as a infraorbital darkness. Something very scary. So at this juncture, I want to take an opportunity to share with all of you this thing called body constitution. Some of you have come across this thing already. Just bear with me and understand where I'm coming at. So Chinese medicine believe in understanding of the personal body constitution type. Because in this course, going forward, I'll be touching the use of acupressure and the use of herbal diet for treatment of illnesses or symptoms that we may come across. Body constitution in TCM is defined from its very early origin. Initially, we classify people into two basic different types, the yin type and the yang type. So someone feel cold easily becomes the yin, someone always feel hot becomes the yang. And subsequently, we develop into this thing called the 5-element body constitution type, whereby we group individual under different body constitution, such as the fire element, wood element, the earth element, the metal element, and the water elements. And what define our constitution? Constitution can be come across from multiple factors. One of the immediate factors that affect our constitution is who our parent is. Our parent giving us an inner essence. When the matured egg and the matured sperm come together, healthy matured egg and matured sperm come together, it carries with it the property or the genetic formula of your father and mother, and eventually it forms who you are. So this is where the inner essence. But upon birth, we are also constantly affected by the environment we are in. Assuming that we have a very good birth, the environment we are in, for example, in a Singapore context, we are geographically located at 1 degree north. So our our so-called geographical, our geopolitical or the geographical climatic condition is typically hot and humid. And that with that understanding, our body constitution also changes subtly because of our our geographical locality. Then the society we are in, the food that we're exposing to, the social status that you belong to also affect your body constitutions. So there are many understudy of body constitution, and I share in this particular course that are consistent throughout my program is the sharing of the 9 body constitution type developed by Professor Wang Qi of Chinese University, Beijing University of Chinese Medicine, Professor Wang Qi, where he conduct a survey based on more than 21,000 samples and come to a conclusion that human body can be defined as 9 body constitution types, and they are as follow. We have with a normal type, with a normal or neutral types, about 32% of the population belong to this particular type. So it's not that bad. 32% are considered normal. We have a Qi deficiency type, where about, pardon me, have some information. Where about, okay, Qi deficiency type, where about 12% belong to this body constitution type. Then we have Yang deficiency type, those who feel cold easily. We have about 8% belong to the Yang deficiency type. Yin deficiency types, about 9% belong to the Yin deficiency type. Most ladies during menopause will start to develop Yin deficiency. Most men after andropause will start to experiencing Yang deficiency. So our body constitution, while there is a base constitution factors, as we age, or the locality that we move subsequently immigrate to or move into, will also affect on our constitution types. Then we have this thing called the phlegm dam type. This particular constitution type are typically a lot of time socially driven. Those who are obesity are typically fall under this particular body constitution type known as phlegm dam type. And the case of diabetic are also closely related and associated with this particular type known as phlegm dam type. And about 10% have this particular type. And the dam heatiness type or dam heat types. This is a particularly appearance in the Singapore context because our geographical area, locality, the geographical locality here that we have, and those living around the island states, I have Indonesian joining my class as well, island states, where they are constantly exposing to all the sea element, water element, and we have this thing called the external near the equator, so the heat and the dampness are constant. And coupled with the fact that the food that we eat are typically on the higher calorie and more spices. So damp heatiness type is another type. Then we have the blood stasis type, where a lot of ladies, due to the exposure to the cold elements, they like to eat cold stuff. And the blood stasis come about, for example, a person experiencing sting such as menses cramp. Okay, a dark pigmentation and stuff like that, it belongs to the blood stasis type. Then we have the Qi stagnation types I mentioned just now. When someone experiencing Qi stagnations, the internal Qi dynamics start to have impeded flow. Many illnesses and symptoms such as the growth in the body, cysts and fibroid, okay, regurgitation, vomiting will start to happen, Qi stagnation types. And in the society where they're highly stressed, Qi stagnation are more prevalent. Then we have this thing called the sensitive or special type. As I mentioned, this particular constitution classification is based on the research done using 21,000 samples. And in these 21,000 samples, there are chances are there will be outliers. Some of us are born with certain defect, whereby we have no control about it. About 5% belong to the sensitive type. So I'll be sharing with you one particular set of questions now today. And in the link that I sent to all of you, they'll have a questionnaire inside. You can do that survey and questionnaire, and next week we can have some short discussion on those types. Because before I touch on application, the beautiful you and calmer you, when I talk about the use of diet and use of acupoint, there's an important understanding of you know who you are before you even embarking on a journey of diet, especially. So in this so-called survey that I, in a way, compile, based on your 1 year experience, we are now in December, so it's a good time. This year is a very eventful year. Eventful or eventless, depending on how you define it. Most of us are grounded in Singapore or with the country where you are in. So you're experiencing and feeling. So the idea is like that. If you have such a feeling that I'm going to discuss in a short while, once every week per se, quite often, you just circle the number that I mentioned. If you don't have it, just ignore. You don't have it, somebody else may have it. These are 40 questions that I compile. They call it the body constitution checklist. In this 40 question, 40 dichotomous question, it's a yes and no answer. If you yes, you just circle the number. If you no, you just ignore the answer. Okay, for example, you may feel shortness of breath easily. Walk a couple of steps, cannot catch your breath. Second, often feel bitterness in the mouth with bad breath or mouth odor. Typically happen occurring more in the morning. Often have dry stool. You notice that your stool is very much dry, lumpy by itself. One whole drop. 4. Often feel pain on the breast or both sides of the flank area, hypochronic area, as I mentioned. 5. Often have loose stool, clear urine color with abundant volume. 6. The body limbs often feel very heavy, especially in rainy day or cold weather. The eye often have red lining. You notice your eye, we look into the mirror, red linings. Number 8, allergy to medicines, food, odors or changes of weather. You behave like a listening post. When the weather change, when there's some virus hovering in the horizon, you are the first one to get it. Okay. Number 9, prefer to stay quiet, often speak with a low and frail voice. A man of few words. 10, face or tip of the nose feeling oily, shiny, and prone to acne. So, 11, often feel feverish on the palm and the sole and the chest area. 12, sentimental, frail, emotion, easily frightened. 13, often have cold limbs. 14, sticky sweat, wet palm or soles. 15, the skin bruises easily. You have certain gum bleed easily when brushing teeth. 19, often have stuffy nose, sneezing, asthma, or even when not having flu. 17, often feel tired and weak. 18, often have heavy, 18, often have sticky stool. 19, flushing or reddish face, often feel the body and the face feverish, typically in the afternoon, more so after 2 p.m. Typically. Number 20, often feel depressed, low mood, and sigh for no apparent reason. Let it high. 21, stomach area often feel cold. 22, often notice swelling of the eye. 23, vulnerable to experiencing variety of pains. 24, vulnerable to get skin rashes. 25, vulnerable to cold. 26, the urine feel hot or typically appear to have yellowish in color. 27, dry eye. The eyes always very dry. 28, easily tense, frustrated, palpitation, anxious, and insomnia. 29, wear more clothes than others. Number 30, you usually have lots of friends. For those who have attended my other courses, you notice that I'm repeating this particular thing. Please bear with me as I mentioned. When you embark on the journey of understanding the use of diet, we need to know the body constitutions, or else it will basically a man's meat is another man's poison. You may eat the wrong thing when someone's sharing the food with you. Okay. 31, dark compressions. Compression is dark. Often have notice some pigmentation or dark eye area, but infraorbital darkness, as I mentioned in the previous notes. The skin, 32, the skin often shows red scratches. 33, often perspire easily. 34, women have yellowish vaginal discharge. For the men, I have men in class, the scrotum area feel wet easily, and they get itchiness very easily at the groin area. This is due to the liver system issue. 35, often have dry mouth and throat. 36, Throat often have clogging sensation, meaning something is choked there. Okay, you like to vomit, you like to speed it up, but it simply cannot move. Nothing move, just something stuck at the throat or the esophagus. We call it a clogging sensation. 37, of feel uncomfortable after drinking cooling stuff. 38, the mouth often have sticky feel. Okay, pardon me. The mouth often feels sticky or sweet. 39, dry and rough skin. 40, the skin often appear to have purple blood spots, or I call it due to allergy. We call it ecchymosis, but due to allergy. So as you complete this 40 set of, as you complete this set of 40 questions, there will be this table that you can kind of see. It's basically a table for you to populate the choice that you have come across into this particular table. If you mark your selection on the table itself, if you have more than 3 in one row, more than 3, circle 3 number or more in one row, then you're likely to belong to that constitution. You're likely. If you have 2, you may be inclined toward this particular body constitution. Take for example, after you go through the set of questions, you come across this particular numbering. So in this number, you notice I have 1 here. So chances are when you go through the set of 40 questions, this set of question is for you to know, not for me to find out. It's basically set as an understanding of who you are and how good you are in understanding yourself. Because by understanding who you are, for example, here you have 1 number here. It's a transient feeling. As a human, sometimes we have some feeling here and there. When I do this particular study since 5 years ago, I come across some situation whereby my participant tell me I have nothing. So be it. It's okay. Yeah, you will have no feeling whatsoever. It's fine. Or someone is everywhere, but it's also fine. But as I said, as you go through this so-called survey, you may come across situation whereby you have 1 here, 1 here. That's called transient. For example, in this case, I have 12, 20, 36. And I have this thing called the 7 and 31 here. So these individuals likelihood to belong to the qi stagnation. At the same time, because of qi stagnation, he or she also experiencing blood stasis. And that itself makes sense. Because of my qi stagnation, I start to feel pain somewhere. So it comes nicely. So most of us are made up of multiple constitutions. And these are basically from who we are being human. So in this particular module today, what I'm covering with all of you here is to basically give you an understanding that as we age for women, okay, our constitution is defined right from birth. Right from birth. But this constitution can change along in life. Like this morning, I have a discussion with one of my participants. We like to use this thing called genetic reasons. Pardon me, I should start wearing now. We have this thing called genetic reason. Many modern medicine or the doctor like to share this thing because your father, mother have, mean you have. This is something that is very pessimistic and it should not be something that we think. Because in the case of the genetic reason, in WHO, we are only the inheritability illnesses only take about 15%. So at this stage, when you're born, we are carry with us genes that our parents give to us. We cannot choose our parents. This is something that we have to make all understand this. We cannot choose our parents. Neither we can choose our children to a certain extent. By doing this constitution checklist, it form a foundation subsequently when I discuss the next topic to all of you next week, whereby I'll be touching on the beautiful you, whereby I discuss beauty from within and what are the issues that affect, for example, our compressions. With someone who slim down, someone to stay so-called gain weight. Slimming down and gaining weight is all about strengthening of our digestive systems And how digestive system affect women per se, I'll discuss in depth next week. Beautiful you. And it's good to understand your personal body constitution. The floor will be open. Come. You may ask questions. Hold on.